to our next caller. That is going to be Rick. Rick from Canada. Now, Rick, I'm going to mute you. I was reading the comments. I always read the comments. Cynthia, you know I read the comments.
I know you read the
because
comments.
Because we laugh sometimes.
We do.
We love to read the comments, especially the nasty ones. And somebody said the other day, Johnny lets these people ramble too much. He needs to smack them down or something like that. It wasn't exactly like that. I want to tell you folks at home and folks here in the audience, I know how to smack people down. I allegedly do it for a living, okay? But this is not the Johnny P. Angel show, right? This is a conversation show. And sometimes I just want to hear what people have to say, like our caller who was telling us about the negative energy balloon of the universe.
Indeed.
I wanted to hear everything he had to say.
Blow up a balloon in a vacuum. I want to see you do it.
If you want to shut him down, folks at home, you've got the home game, go ahead and turn off the volume.
Yeah.
All right? And consider that was me. But I'm not going to shoot Rick down. I want to hear what Rick has to say, and I do appreciate him calling back. Rick, you are unmuted. Rick from Canada, he has evidence for the Tower of Babel.
Yes.
There is neurological evidence as well as similarities of early languages. Cool. You are on Talk Heathen once again, Rick, with Cynthia McJackson and Johnny P. Macho Man Randy Savage. All right.
Hey, I was going to say, I think that's why I like calling you, Johnny, because you let people talk. So
I do.
I think you did a good show today, buddy.
Thank you. Some people think I talk too much, and some people think I don't talk enough. I don't know. You can't please people. What do you got, Rick? Give it to me, baby.
But I wanted to say happy holiday. It's like your Easter, right?
For me,
Halloween?
For me, it's the high holiday of the year.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. I'm going to boil a baby when I leave here.
Mazel tov.
Ah.
Yeah. I love Halloween. It's my favorite holiday.
Indeed.
And it brought me Cynthia McDonald. So yeah, and a happy Halloween to you too, Rick.
Yes.
What is your evidence? What do you got here?
All right. Yeah, I was gonna say it's the closest you guys get to the resurrection, but. So have you guys know the Tower of Babel story?
Yeah.
I am familiar.
It's a weird one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Folks.
Yeah, so it talks about how there was one language, right? Mm-hmm. And then it says that the whole earth was one language and of one speech.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they were building a tower to the sky, and God came down to confound their language, which in Hebrew means to mix, and their speech, right?
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
So a lot of people say that the tower collapsed. It doesn't necessarily say that. There's other places where it insinuates that. But if the tower did collapse and things came down on their head, have you guys ever heard of aphasia?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. So aphasia is like a contorting of the language, right? So some people speak the language, they mix up words, put it in different places, but it makes sense to them. Other people talk with accents. There's been people that actually woke up out of comas and spoke entirely different languages that they subconsciously heard through their life, right?
That's what I've heard. I don't know if it's true, but I've heard of that, yeah.
Yeah, so it's happened quite a bit. One kid spoke Spanish, but it's a pretty common thing when you get hit on the left side of your brain. So if something was to hit a bunch of people on their brain and they got aphasia, it would make sense that they were speaking to each other.
Is this the Three Stooges argument for the existence of God?
No, it's just proof of. That's why I call in, right? Got to prove the Bible stories, right? You guys want proof.
Rick,
yeah, you won't take any of
your calls are mother's milk to me. Come on. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So aphasia. So God. Okay. Go on. No. You weren't even. You were getting to your point, but you weren't there.
Right.
Go ahead. Aphasia.
So that explains how that scenario could happen, and then once they couldn't understand each other, they left. Now, if they got aphasia and they changed accents, say, and they mixed up their words so it didn't make sense to each other, that explains why all the early languages are also similar. Even Hebrew even shares similarities with Japanese and Chinese. All of those early languages speak similar or write similar, right? So this leads you to believe that they all came from one place, right? Which isn't really debated amongst the scientific community. Language generally started somewhere. So if it started at the Tower of Babel, it explains how something hit their head, gave them a concussion, gave them aphasia, they separated, but it didn't change their language. It mixed their language, which is why we see similarities in the different texts throughout the world, right?
Well, you say right a lot, Rick, and
I'm Canadian.
no, it's good, eh? But right, there's a lot of, okay, first of all, I'm not going to say Gish Gallop because I don't think this is a Gish Gallop. I think you're following along a path, and you're making statements, and you're like, right, this is true, right, this is true, right, this is true, and I got to say, yeah, I don't know about that. There may be some similar noises in Japanese as there are to Hebrew, as there are to Ojibwa, as there are to, Klingon, but
Kapla.
But Rick, have you ever studied linguistics?
No.
No. All right.
Okay.
Have you done a 16 hours of cursory research into linguistics? Because I haven't even done that. But I'll tell you this. I have somebody in my life who is a relative, okay, who is was a PhD candidate for linguistics, who I'm going to reach out to, and I'm going to brush up, and I won't be an expert when he explains to me.
You're going to brush up on your Shakespeare?
I'm going to brush up on my linguistics.
There you go.
Rick, I don't think that the linguistic sciences have established by a preponderance of the evidence that all languages descend from one language. I think that is just wishful thinking, right?
Well, all the early languages are very similar, and even if we look at like English comes from Greek, all the languages are connected somehow, some way, right?
All of the early languages are similar, right? I don't know if that's true. I mean, that's kind of a speculation, isn't it, right?
No, not at all.
Where did you get that information?
Yeah, I would love to know, what is your source for that, Rick?
Yeah. Yeah, where's your source for that?
Sources, I went through all the languages to see the similarities.
You went through all of the languages?
Did you take 16 hours or was it 17?
Rick, where can I find
the
this?
early ones, right?
Kevin from New York gave me sacred-text.com. Do you have a website that you can point me to that has all of the languages, the early languages, the ones that weren't even written down?
Right.
In fact, mostly they weren't written down. We're talking like banging rocks together and grunts and stuff,
years.
right? Yeah. So
And then pictures like
pictographs.
Pictographs, yeah.
Uniform is the oldest language.
What is the oldest language?
The oldest language. It's roughly 8,000 years, but we don't know how that was spoke.
Okay.
Right? But I guarantee that the speech was probably similar like the rest, right?
What is your guarantee
Just the way it
based
is.
on?
Yeah.
What is your guarantee based on?
Is it a money-back guarantee, Rick?
100%?
It's based on the fact that all the other languages are similar. Even Japanese shares words that are similar to Hebrew, which makes zero sense.
Give me an example. Give me an example of a Japanese word that's similar to
Hebrew.
To Hebrew.
Konnichiwa.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then give me the Hebrew one. Give me the Hebrew.
Man. Like,
Oh no, Rick, you're the one that's asserting the claim.
You're just going.
Rick.
You don't like the argument, so you're going no.
Rick, you're
no.
asserting the claim. I need you obviously are convinced by this, so that must mean that you have evidence that you have reviewed, and it is tilted the scale in favor of this. So, I know. Look, we've gone through all the trouble. We've dressed up. We've got this big production. We're on YouTube. We've got call screeners. We've got all this technology. We've done all this for you, Rick.
Please.
So give us, in turn, an example of a Japanese word and a Hebrew word that's similar. And then we're going to move on to another language. Go ahead. Give me one Japanese word that is similar to a Hebrew word.
You guys, you can use Prophet Google, right? Prophet Google.
Rick,
explain all this.
use Prophet Google.
Right.
Give it to me, Rick.
Yes, the oracle, the great oracle of Google. Fine. We just want the word.
Give me all your Hebrew.
Please.
All your Japanese words, too.
You guys don't like the argument because you have nothing for it.
Rick.
On something with the no.
Rick.
Google it.
Rick. Wait. Hold on, Rick. You called in to Talk Heathen to speak to Johnny P and myself, to actually give us an argument about the Tower of Babel and and how it has, what was it, neurological similarities for early languages. So, so we are assuming that you have evidence to actually convince us that this is a thing. So we're asking clarifying questions so that we can get an understanding of your argument. It has nothing to do with if we like it or not. I mean, like I am not a linguistics expert, linguini expert. I'm not a linguini expert nor a linguistics expert. That is not my profession. So I'm really trying to understand. So, so if we're asking specifically, okay, if you have an example of a word or, different portions of a language that are similar to like you made a claim about Hebrew being similar to Japanese. You gave konnichiwa. And then we was like, oh, so what's the Hebrew equivalent?
Yeah. What's the Hebrew equivalent?
What is the Hebrew equivalent?
Yeah.
So if you guys aren't afraid of the argument, can you acknowledge that if
Rick, it's a real simple answer.
Yeah,
Rick,
we just need the word.
Go ahead and mute you, Rick. I haven't muted anybody all day.
No, you haven't.
But you're the first one. Mm-hmm. Rick, what are the two words? There's one in Japanese
konnichiwa.
And one konnichiwa, but maybe you were being it was a jape is
Maybe.
what that was.
They were hyperbolic.
He was jesting with us. He's joshing with us.
Jesting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Rick, what is the Hebrew equivalent of konnichiwa? And now you're unmuted. I don't like prefaces.
No.
I don't like prologues.
I know. So,
Rick, you're gonna give it to me right now, or I'm gonna suspect that maybe you're shooting from the hip. Okay,
pew,
Rick?
Pew.
No. What are those words, please?
So can you acknowledge that it's true?
Rick, the next thing out of your mouth has got to be the Hebrew equivalent of konnichiwa. And maybe konnichiwa, maybe I came out wrong. Maybe you meant something else. So give me the two words that are one's in Hebrew and one's in old Japanese.
Yes.
And they're so similar that it defies reason that it could be anything other than the Tower of Babel. Mm-hmm. What is it? I will not be acknowledging anything until you give me those words. Go ahead. What is it?
Please.
You guys are just making yourselves look silly. You have no argument and you're terrible.
Okay.
I think Rick has shown his stripes on this
I
one.
believe so.
Rick.
I can't even say that they're zebra. I just want to preface, because I usually say this from my office or from wherever I'm actually watching Talk Heathen or Experience or any of the call-in shows that are produced by the ACA. If you're going to call in with the argument, please produce your evidence instead of actually just like throwing off and saying, well, you don't like my argument.
Yeah.
Or you don't, or you're just doing a counter argument that's absolutely terrible. The burden of proof is not upon us. We are here to listen to you. Tell us what you thinking, and then we will respond accordingly. So, can y'all do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, please. Thanks, Rick.
Someone in chat said, we got Chomsky in here. Yeah.